afternoon, everyone, and welcome to Topic Time with Harrison Young. Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to Topic Time with Harrison Young. We have another Zoomer tonight. We're already practically midway through January. The weather's been pretty nice. You see a little snow patch behind me, but that's incidental to the park where this picture was taken. It's not really snowing out right now. And I have a Zoom show. I'm interviewing a comedic doctor in New York. Great combination. Never interviewed one of those before. But before we get to him, got to read these incredible underwriters, and then we will commence per usual. So I want to thank Auto Country, king of the used car in Abington, #1 in the dealer ratings for Massachusetts for 2021. Been with me since the beginning. Great customer service. We got them. We got the barbershop in Whitman. We got Radiologist 101 barbershop in Brockton. We got Auto Town Auto Glass and Auto Body in Abington. We got Supreme House of Pizza in Brockton. They're in Newark. We got 810 Auto Motors in Abington. We got One Good Credit in Brockton. We got A1's Tire and Auto Center in Brockton. I was looking for new service writers and techs. We got Your Shine Pro Detailing in Abington. I was in search of new talent. We got Eli's Auto Repair in Taunton. We got John's Greenhouses and Florist Shop in Brockton. We got RW Carpet and Flooring in Norton, covering floors for 50 years. We got Doggy Boutique, all breed professional grooming for dogs and cats, run by my great next door neighbor, Debbie Shadell in Brockton. We got Grant's Rental in Bridgewater. We got the Gun Runner LLC in Middleborough, the Second Amendment Freedom Store. We got Eastern Fitness right here in the Village Shops in Northeastern. We got Kahalian and Stefani PC. Attorneys at law in Brockton, specializing in personal injury and workman's comp law. And we got Joe's Diner in Taunton. And I want to thank you guys very much. And now, Dr. Steve Jefferson, is it?
No, that's my nom de radio. I'm just Dr. Steve.
Dr. Steve. Okay.
Yep.
Well, when I found you on Facebook, well, actually, I don't think I found you. I think you may have found me. But what I saw was Dr. Steve Jefferson.
Yeah. Yeah. That's
by Dr. Steve.
Yeah. Dr. Steve. It's, I have a real job. And so I'm, I have a radio show on Sirius XM. It's the first and still only uncensored medical show in the history of broadcast radio.
Hold up a second. I got to ask right off the bat. Uncensored medical. What does that mean? You swear and you heal people at the same time. Is that it?
Oh, well, it's an uncensored medical show, meaning that when it first started, I said, I'm not going to be dropping, F-bombs and stuff, but if the caller calls in and they do, I'm not going to bleep them because we're on satellite radio.
Right.
And people were able to ask questions that they were never able to ask on the radio before. I don't know if you remember, Harrison, you're old enough to remember Dr. Dean Adele. He used to have a really good, he was my inspiration. When I was in residency, I used to listen to him. He's been around forever. And he did an hour medical show. I didn't know that what was going on that show was people weren't just calling in and this guy was, answering these questions off the top of his head. They were calling in and he would research the questions and then they would call them the next day and pretend that they had just called in. So Dean Adele it was like, how does he keep all this stuff in his brain? And when I decided to do this, I didn't know that. So we just took calls and I had to really get up on my game so that I could answer these questions that were just coming in one after another. And, it was really kind of a fun experience. Later on, I realized what Dean Adele had been doing. As I said, he was my inspiration. So now we take voicemails and at least gives me a couple of minutes to make sure that what I'm saying is correct. So and then it sort of evolved to where I do drop an F-bomb every once in a while on my show just because I can, and it's uncensored and it's satellite radio, and then we put a podcast version out as well.
Oh, okay, well, this is it. Now, Dean Adele, is he based in New York too?
I don't know where he was. I know he's since retired.
Okay.
But he made a living doing an hour of radio a day, syndicated in probably 70 markets. So, now you can't hardly, you could syndicate to 70 markets. You're not going to make a living anymore.
Why not?
There's just no money in
a lot of turf to cover, isn't it?
Yeah, there's just no money in terrestrial radio. So, this started out as a hobby for me, and now it's 17 years later, still kind of still a hobby. I When we did our show the first time, October 13th, 2007, on the Opie and Anthony channel on Sirius
Okay.
XM. And it was so successful, that first show, that my partner and I, PA John was his name, he and I walked out of the West 57th studios and looked up at the Parker Meridian in New York City and said, should we maybe buy one of those condos up there? Because yeah, we thought we were going to make Howard Stern money, and we barely
Scratch the surface.
Yeah, no, this is something I do to just give back, because I was in the depth of a deep depression, and Opie and Anthony and their listeners, who, sometimes the listeners were funnier than they were, and that whole sort of community just kind of lifted me out of that over time. And this is just my way of giving back. I answer medical questions, whatever it is. They can call in, they can ask. If I can't answer it, I refer them to.
Well, tell me about. Well, speaking about your medical background,
yeah.
What is it? How are you a GP, or are you a brain surgeon? What are you?
I am a specialist. I'm a specialist, but I started out as a generalist.
Specialist in what field of medicine?
Yeah, I get palliative medicine, so it's like cancer pain and
Okay.
and symptom management and medical decision making, that kind of stuff. But I started out as a generalist. I'm board certified in family medicine, which you cover everything, and that was perfect for me to do a show like this, because as a family medicine board certified specialist, I had not only knowledge about a lot of different topics, but I also had access to a lot of things that I could make myself very smart very quickly.
Okay. Well,
if somebody called in with something, if I saw it on the call screening software and I had to refresh, we go to commercial, I'd get on Google real quick and bone back up on it so I could sound halfway intelligent. And then I finally learned the technique is you don't do it live like that. You have the calls come in and then you answer them at your leisure. Works much better. I sound a little bit smarter that way.
I'm looking at your background, and I figured if you're a doctor, you'd have your medical degrees hanging on the wall. Instead, you have an acoustic guitar hanging on the wall, which is pretty. Yeah. But I guess that's not your office, or is it?
No, this is my studio. So I can. Okay. I don't know. Is it okay if I change cameras and just show you?
Oh yeah, just as long as you just don't lose the feed. Oh, it's beautiful.
Yeah, that's my music studio, and then this other camera really isn't very well set up. But that's a terrible view. But we have
great view.
We have a radio studio in here, and it's completely a portion. I've got four mics and a 16-channel mixer and USB, interface. And we can do just about anything in here, and then in the other studio we can do music. So
okay, but when did you get your medical degree, and from what school? I'm just curious.
I went to University of North Carolina, Chapel Hill.
Okay,
but my original degree was in radio, television, and motion pictures.
Oh, I see.
And so when I finally went back to medical school after working in television, you could just do so many Uncle Paul shows and so many Roses commercials before you just kind of burn out. And when I went back to medical school, I was always searching for some way that I could merge medicine and my original degree. And, I had a minor in journalism, and, I just really wanted to be able to do that. And it wasn't until Opie and Anthony came along and Opie one day said, "Hey, I've got some golden tickets. If you've got an idea for a show, give us a call and maybe we could, we'll put you on the air." And I really think they put me on the air thinking I was just going to be a complete, utter failure, and then they could laugh at me. But if it was okay, they could take credit for it. So it was a win-win for them.
Well, I guess it worked out pretty well. You've been doing it, what, 17 years?
Yeah, so I think we're working on about 17 years. Is that right? It's close. It'll be 20 years in 2027. So whatever that works out.
Oh, all right. So that means you're 16 years.
Yeah, there you go. That's right.
16.
And
I was 16.
I, I was behind the scenes for the longest time on that channel.
Well, tell me
So
about, all right, listen, I do, like with every guest, I try to profile them thoroughly. Tell me about where you grew up obviously as a kid, where you grew up, how you
sure.
got, what did you aspire to? What did you do that got you into what you're doing now? What are the events and
Yeah.
circumstances that led to your current situation? And then we'll work our way forward from that.
Well, my current radio situation is kind of more of a fun story. My physician journey is a little bit of a bummer, so I'll pass that one.
Okay,
I had a family member that was sick, and you
oh yeah,
get
okay.
called to do something, but yeah, when I was a kid, I was just a scrawny little kid, got beat up all the time,
I was a fat
and
kid who got beat up all the time.
was that right?
Yeah, you can't tell from now looking at me today, but yeah, I've been there.
Well, you and I have something else in common too. We had to wear braces on our feet when we were.
I didn't have to wear braces on my feet. My parents wouldn't, I didn't have to do that.
Oh, I see. Okay, the
You know,
doctors wanted.
you saw my interview with Kyle last week. I didn't wear braces. The doctor said, because my right foot was kind of pointing inward, that they recommended it.
Yeah.
No, that's what they recommended. They said, have him wear a brace on his feet till he's like 7 months old.
Yeah.
Figured I was whining enough as it was. They didn't want it any worse.
Okay.
And I'm glad they didn't. My feet work fine right now.
They're okay. Okay. Well, I did.
Yeah. 63, I feel pretty good.
My parents did have me wear the brace, and I still have it somewhere. It's funny, it's just a shoe with another shoe that looks like this, and then
Well,
there
the problem is when you wear a brace. I mean, it's supposed to it's supposed to change the formation of your foot or whatever body part. It's supposed to get it to adhere in a different way, but it doesn't work like that. It's just painful,
right.
I would think.
Well, it may be. I mean, this was
you did it. Bother you, I guess, right?
It was 67 years ago, so who knows? But you and I both had a thing called metatarsus abductus, and and Carl had another thing. Your guest from last week had Talipes equinovarus, and
this Latin stuff is over my head. But go ahead, you can.
That's okay. I'd say, well, that's just the term we use, but what that really means is club foot. And the equinovarus means that it's turned in like a horse's foot. That's where the Greek comes from.
Okay.
So, and they were sort of like the ancients thought of them as sort of having horse's feet. You can imagine now, back before modern surgery, people were born that way. They really had a hard time because his feet were pointing in toward each other. And so, but and you and I had the same thing, but our parents took a different journey on that. They had me wear the brace and they didn't with you, and we're both fine. So
right.
Who knows?
Yeah, I know. I feel good. You're 67, huh?
Yeah. Yes, I am.
Okay. Well, yeah. Okay. Well, that's provable. I'd say that's the new middle age or less, I figure. And then,
when I look in the mirror, I can fool myself into thinking that I am still young. But when I see a picture of myself, I am, horrified by how old I've gotten. But I was just going to show you. This is the mental image I have of myself, if I can find it. Yeah, this was me.
Oh, yeah? I love it.
Yeah, that was.
I know. I was a hippie too.
Yeah, were you really? Yeah. That was a fun time.
70s, man, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I know. Yeah. I had the Fu Manchu mustache and the long hair down on my shoulders.
Oh, do you have any pictures of that? You've got.
I do have. I don't have them. Well, there's a picture of a very. Bobby Orr is the hockey player, right?
Sure.
Of course you do. Okay, well, on March 25th, 1974, when I was in 9th grade, I was 14 and a half, and I had a privilege to have dinner with him and his wife, then pregnant with their son Darren, who's now almost 50, because he was born in 1974. Because back at that time, they were just starting to do these charity auctions for celebrity get-togethers. So my mother bid $500 so my brother and I could have dinner with Bobby Orr. At that time, we were watching.
That was a lot of money.
It was. But it was worth it. 12 years after that, I paid $500 for a Celtics ticket so I could see them win the championship on June 8, 1986 against Houston at the Garden, because some guy it was for a good cause. He was donating it to Children's Hospital. He couldn't make it. He couldn't go to the game.
Yeah.
So he left the ticket at the radio station, and all he had to do was outbid I paid $500. It was worth it.
Wow.
I'll always be able to say I saw Larry Bird in his final championship win. If you like sports, which I do. So
that's amazing.
I know that. Yeah, I mean, that's cool. I mean, I love to think retroactive thoughts about the past, but I also like to think that no matter what I've been through already, the best is yet to come, no matter how, and that's the way you got to think. I mean, life is too full of, pitfalls to say, not to drag yourself up and say, hey, listen, that sucked, but tomorrow's going to be better. And that's,
Oh,
for me, it certainly has been. And I imagine for you too.
I totally agree. If you don't think that there are good things in your path in your future and all the good stuff was in the past, then well, what's the point?
That's just it. For me, all the bad stuff was in the past. That's why I had my first midlife crisis when I was 6. The day after my 6th birthday on Monday, October 4th, 1967. 1965. That's when I turned 6. I was born in 59. So
Okay.
I was sitting, I remember I was a weekend and I was in 1st grade at the Ellis Spread School in Brockton. And I remember I had to go to school the next day. I had kind of a lousy weekend and I was sitting not on the toilet, but on the brim of the bathtub, feeling kind of queasy and thinking, I'm 6 years old and this is as good as it gets.
Oh boy.
Yeah,
Wow.
I was pretty bummed.
That's a pretty advanced thought for a 6-year-old.
Exactly.
When kids start turning 6 or 7, some of them will start to realize that this is not a permanent situation. In other words, that it'll hit them that, oh my gosh, I'm going to die someday. I remember
before 6 that I knew I was going to die.
Yeah. Well, my kid was 6 or 7 when he kind of internalized it. Before that, he knew it in an abstract way, and he started crying. He said, "I can't take all my stuff with me." And I said, "Well, you won't need it. You'll be all right." But it was kids do hit this sort of phase where they have this existential crisis sometimes at age 6 or 7. And you got to be aware of it if you're a parent, so that you can kind of guide them through it.
Do you have any psychological training at your school?
We get some, but not much.
That's a pretty good shrink, to be honest. Radio shrink, like Frasier on the TV show.
There you go. Yeah. See, I'm like Frasier, except I do physical maladies and stuff. We deal a lot with things like, oh, well, I got to be careful because a lot of it is below the belt. So I don't know what you can allow on this thing. I don't want to.
Gynecological, right?
Yeah.
Anal, whatever.
A lot of it is urologic. One of the most common questions I get, and I'll couch this best way I can for broadcast, is that, after, post-coital urethral pain. These are people who have a burning in the urethra.
Right, obviously, unless the man gives birth, which only in seahorses is, so I hear.
Well, right. So, but they'll have this burning afterward, and it may last up to an hour or two, and it's not an STD. And what it is spasm of the urethra. And I get this question probably about 2 or 3 times a year.
You're talking about women that give birth, right? Post-coital, that's got to do with birth.
Yeah, right. Well, okay, fair enough. But I don't know what you're saying there, but I'm talking about guys having
anybody.
pain.
Okay, I didn't. Okay, you're talking about anybody. Got it.
Okay. Yeah. These are guys who have pain after intercourse. Okay, and it's burning in the urethra, which is the tube that goes from the bladder to the outside of the worm.
That much I do know. Even though
there you go. Okay, and it turns out it's spasm of the urethra causes this burning, sort of very intense discomfort. And these guys go crazy with it, and kind of just, it makes them almost not want to have intercourse. And what they're usually thrilled when I give them the answer is just to take, and some of your viewers may experience it, take warm, not hot water, warm hot water, and just dip that equipment in the warm water, and within about 30 seconds it'll go away.
Okay. Wow, you can't get a better solution than that. No,
there you go. And I deal with shy bladder all the time too. Those kinds of things. I've got answers for that.
Wow.
Howard Stern had shy bladder. I never could get him to listen to me on that one. I've been on Howard several times.
Oh, that's right. You've been on Howard's show.
Yeah. I did the Jeremiah Staffer bit. This was before COVID.
Okay. Wow.
And the most fun thing about that was it was a scientific experiment.
You were on the show before or after he got on Sirius Radio?
Yeah, this was after. This was during Sirius, just before COVID.
Got it.
And I sent them up a bunch of swabs, and Mehmet Walker was the guy that I interfaced with.
Okay.
And he swabbed a bunch of places, and I said, what you want to do is swab, and there's this guy, Richard Christie, he's known for not showering and stuff. I said, swab Richard's hands, but also swab his butt. And then we'll send them off to the lab, and they packaged it all up in ice, and they sent them to me. I sent them to the lab, and they identified all the bacteria that were in all these different places, right? Gary's desk and all this stuff. Well, the funniest thing to me was that Richard's hands.
Are you talking about one of his staff members that does it? That
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, that's right.
That's why I asked about Sirius. I haven't listened to his show on Sirius.
Oh, that's okay. Okay. Yeah, Richard is one of the guys that does phony phone calls, but he's also known for not taking showers and not having great hygiene.
Must be fun with them.
And yeah, I know.
Okay.
And but it turned out that his hands had more E. coli, in other words, fecal bacteria on it than his butt did.
I even know that too.
And I thought that was funny. So anyway, it was that kind of stuff.
You ever think maybe introducing them to the concept of toilet paper? As long as we're on the subject, I think maybe that was his problem.
Well, one of my campaigns is for people to get rid of toilet paper. Just get a bidet. Get a bidet.
Does that actually? I can't. I love the topic, but does that actually go into the rectum and clean it out without hands free? Is that?
Yeah. It can be completely hands free. It doesn't necessarily go into the rectum, but it gets, it cleans the outside. It's just like, if you just go in the shower or you're in the, I don't know. I mean,
a little bit of grit in there, I think. I don't know if a lot of that would do it for me, but that's me.
Yeah. So, but when you have a bidet, it will shoot out from the back and it will completely clean you. And if you sit there, some of the bidets have a little fan on it. You don't have to use any paper at all. And you'll notice, well, maybe you won't notice, but I notice that the French have more bidets than we do, and they have far less.
That's where they originated, right?
That's right. That's why it's a French word. And they have much fewer problems with rectum and anus and hemorrhoids and stuff like that because they don't use toilet paper. And if you think about it, Harrison, toilet paper.
Or not, I do think about it, even though most people.
I know. I'm sure you do. But toilet paper, if you had Vaseline and you rub it on a bare rug and then you try to take newspaper or even a paper towel and rub it off, it's the same as trying to wipe your rear end. If you've got a lot of hair around that area, it can't be done. So the bidet is the solution to that. I highly recommend it. Do you have a plumber that's one of your underwriters?
A plumber? No, I don't think so. I did have roto-visit in my house recently because I had a clog in my sink.
Okay. Well, that'd be a good underwriter for you to have, and then I could come back and sell bidets for them.
Well, I mean, I'm being honest with you. I'm happy with the good old American, just get up there and get with it with your hands. Be a man with your hands. That's me, though.
I understand.
I mean, I think that's why, I mean, I like the toilet paper with the ridges because that's what gets that gives you a nice cushion. That gives you a nice protection between your fingers and the inside there.
Right. Well, yeah,
that's it, obviously.
Yeah, that's true.
You want on the subject of, which I think it's a great subject. I could do a whole show on that.
Yeah, sure.
We have been.
I wish I'd known you were interested in this. We could have started with it.
You learn something every day. That's why I love when I do topic time, just to see where the conversation goes. And today it's gone pretty well.
Yeah. Okay. Good deal. Well,
what about now? But let me ask you this now: do you actually help people deal with with the actual STDs as well? I mean, it sounds to me like you know a little bit about these things.
Oh, sure. But the thing is, the one thing I can't do remotely, obviously, is stick a probe up their urethra and try to diagnose it. But I
can't do that, and I wouldn't want you to do that.
Thank you. So, and I wouldn't want to do it. But what I can do is I can tell them, what I think it might be and how they can approach talking to their healthcare provider about it. Because a lot of people are just embarrassed. And the first thing I tell them is there's no judgment in that place. And the only time there might be a judgment is if you show up with a light bulb stuck up your rectum. And even then I say, just tell them you sat on it, because that is the fiction that we've all decided we're going to agree on, that if someone comes into the emergency room and they have zucchini or a light bulb or
like
something
that episode from Silly Jerry. if you ever watch
Yes,
that.
yeah, right. I guess, but
Yes, man.
just tell them you sat on it, and everybody will go, "Oh, okay." And when they all know what really happened, but that way you save face and you're not embarrassed to go. And I tell people, listen, in reality, there is no judgment in there. That's one of the places that you can speak freely and not be judged. And just take care of yourself and don't let that stuff go on and on and on, because even gonorrhea and chlamydia can cause serious problems if they're left untreated for a long time.
Well, I won't have that problem. Right now I'm single as a shingle on a Pringle. We're down to the final 5 minutes, and I figured I'd leave you. Speaking of that, I'm going to give you one. I'm going to tell you one little story first, and then we're going to do the wrap-up process. So on this, today is January 12th, 2023. On this date, 40 years ago, I was in the hospital because I had back surgery, and you may know the anesthesia had made my bladder go to sleep.
Yes.
So 2 big guys had to catheterize me so I could urinate.
Right.
And it was horrible, but they did a great job. And I'm going to tell you, I've always be appreciative of that, because obviously we need that. We need that free flowing stuff. So on that note, now that we're under 5 minutes, I hope you had a good time with me.
Oh, I had a wonderful time.
I did too.
Yeah, it seems like we just got started. We need to do this again.
I know we had some good gaffing going on, whatever they call that. Good.
Sorry.
No, it's okay. We had good talk chemistry. Okay.
There you go. Yeah.
So what I want you to do in the final remaining 4.5 minutes is give shouts out to people that are going to see the show.
Okay.
And real quick, and then we'll finish it up with my music the way we began it. So go ahead.
Well, Carl was on your show recently, and
did a great job.
He's a friend of mine, and he did his list, and apparently I'm not on his list of shout out friends. So
he might have forgotten. He couldn't shout out to everybody.
No, I know. I've said if you start listing people, you're going to leave somebody out. So, I like to amplify any slights that Carl slings my way, so I can start up the narrative that he's a crappy friend. But the opposite is actually true. He's actually one of my favorite people, and he is a very good friend. But my shout outs, our network CEO, Cardiff Electric, you need to have him on your show.
He wants to do the show. I'm ready to do it anytime he is.
He will be the best guest you've ever had.
Okay.
And Vinny the Bear Paulino, producer Chris, Jenny Jingles, my wife Tacey, Crows and Andy, Tucker Dixon, Pat Dixon, Tony Two Shirts, Debbie Dabbler, B Dabbler, L. Harible, Pickwick Pub, Patrick Michael, Chad Zumach, Gino Bisconte, Kevin Brennan, Bob Levy, Shuli the Schnorrer Egar. I said that wrong. I don't speak Yiddish very well. Rob Morris, Dabblers Anonymous, The Dabbleverse, Chrissy Mayer, Frank Pellegrino, Mean Doug, Nice Doug, and Blind Mike Geary. You'd think I'd never been on the radio before.
Oh, but no, you sound like you sound like an awesome DJ. And I'm glad as great as the conversation was, that's definitely in your
That's terrible.
Fold if you want it. That was great. I love that. I love those. You gave the best plugs I've ever heard anyone give any.
And also Carl Hamburger. I'll throw Carl in there.
Well, all right. And if you had a good time with me,
had a great time.
Then have them. I'd love to get all those people, any or all of them, on as guests. You have my digits. You can have them text me and call me. We'll get them on by Zoom, or we'll get them on in person, either and or.
Absolutely. Now that you're the
host of the most, I know the host.
Yeah, the host of the most with the WATP crowd, we can get you just about any of those.
The compliments have just been pouring in, and I love that. Okay, I got one last favor to ask you. After we wrap it up, will you stick around and do a couple of pictures for Facebook, and I'll.
Oh yeah, absolutely, of course.
All right, great job, great job, Dr. Steve.
Thank you, my friend.
We're gonna wrap it up, folks. Thanks for watching Top of Time. See you next week. I got a great musical guest coming in here to be with you. Take care. Bye bye. And perform for you.